are we live?
Am I able to share my screen or do you have to
You,
give me
you,
that?
will- nope, you will be able to. You should be able to without a problem.
Okay, great.
All righty. All right. Good evening, everyone. I see you all coming in. Thank you so much for joining us here live in the Zoom. We are so excited to introduce you to Harry Souza with CareMindr. And some of you may have seen this face before, as I stated. Harry came and he talked to a special group several weeks ago, almost a couple of months ago now. Wow, time, can you believe it's
April
already
2nd.
June,
That was
Harry? Can you
early April,
believe
early
that?
April. Yeah.
Yes, gosh. And many of you invested with Harry. He has an update for those of you who are already investors. And we wanted to get this in front of you again as a larger community because we really love what Harry and his team are doing in the health tech space. And so we wanted to uh, give him an opportunity to talk to the broader group, to share everything that CareMindr is doing. And so with that said, Harry, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you for you to share with the community a little bit about yourself, and how you came up with this amazing technology solution, and then talk about all the lives you're going to change.
Okay, we'll do that. All right. Well, thank you again. It's been a couple months, but it's been very eventful couple months for us. And so for those of you that saw the presentation back at the beginning of April, there's new things and they're very important new things. I felt I really didn't want to preview them when we were just getting into them, but now some of them have reached much higher levels of fruition or completion. And so I'll share those with you. My name is Harry Souza. I'm out in Northern California in Silicon Valley. So I know those of you on the East Coast, it's late into your evening here, and thank you so much for spending time. But throughout the country, and we had investors from different parts of the country, um, the, the work that CareMindr does is in the health technology area. If you want to hear my story, see my story, it's interesting. One of the things that we started is an ongoing blog in LinkedIn, and I do posts, and there's three of them up there now. The I'm a little I was a little embarrassed when I was talking to my communications people about this because they said, well, you have to start off by explaining where you came from and how you got here so that you have a credibility statement before you start digging into all the cool things you guys are doing. So that was from one of my advisors. And so the first three that you'll see there talk a little bit about my background and a little bit about the things we've learned about health tech, and the healthcare industry and things for investors. I mean, LinkedIn is a business site. And so if you go and looked at Harry Souza on LinkedIn and you read the posts, they're not very long, you will see a short story building, and it will continue on for quite a while here. There's a lot of information that's all teed up to become future blogs. I will tell you that the blogs were created using an AI technique. We put a lot of information, a lot of open discussions and questions and answers and presentations and so on. And then we ask the generator to create a short blog for LinkedIn on a specific topic. We then read it. And the funny thing is that the others read it, but I actually say it out loud because I want to make sure that my voice is still my voice and the story is presented in the way that I would I would do it if I was talking to someone. So what you're going to see today is a further reaching of AI. So I'm going to share my screen and go to a presentation now. And there's one little step I have to do here just to make sure that there's something you can hear. Uh, where is that? I thought there was a thing about sharing my sound. Whoops.
There is. So before you hit the share button, or when you hit the share button, it lets you select the window, and then it should give you the share sound option. Sometimes it's
Oh,
hidden
no,
under
it's
it.
there. I see it now. Now I
You
see it.
see
I
it?
do see
Okay.
it. Yeah, now I see it. So before I hit it, there should be share sound. It hasn't lit up. Hold on. If I hit share, I'm looking at it. I've done this before. I don't know why I'm having this problem here. Interesting. It's a, hmm. Um, okay, well, that's kind of crazy. I can't find it. I've done this before, but I'm not finding it today. Well, let's go ahead with the sharing and we'll see where it gets us here. So let me go back to here, click on that. Tawana, the share sound option is on. It is on the sheet, but it's
Is it grayed out?
grayed out. Yeah, I can't.
It happens sometimes. Click into advanced and see if you see something in there.
Click into advanced. Got it. Okay.
What are the options listed there?
Portion of screen, couple grayed out, AirPlay, computer audio. Maybe this is it. Share sound. It's right up here. It's grayed out. I'll tell you what, don't worry about it. I will explain what's going on. And there's only one little section of it, and I'm going to go past that, and I'll be able to just narrate it as it happens.
Okay,
So we'll just
perfect.
do it that way. So I'm sorry about that delay, folks. Um, Unplanned. So I'm assuming you can see my screen, and we'll go to the full scale, and we'll go on here. So this is going to talk about our investment offering for you today, and we're going to hit on 5 topics. You can see them here. It talks about who we are and how we've gotten here, why it works, and the breakthrough that we've integrated, and now it is integrated. And we're going to talk about the latest patent we've applied for, which was it was just barely a work in process 2 months ago. And again, talk about the deal that we're offering here. This is the team at CareMinder. You can see that it's a number of people that are the core group and corporate advisors that come from very specific areas. We have a lot of experience throughout healthcare. This is my 3rd time in. If you looked at the LinkedIn blog, you will hear me talking about the prior companies. And so this is my 3rd time in doing a health tech company. And the people that I knew we needed when we pulled the team together came from the areas that you see here, from people who understood digital healthcare and research, people that understand behavioral health and addiction management, the analytics, et cetera. You see that. And this is a very strong team in terms of its experience. You'll notice we're not terribly young because you can't gain that experience in just a short while. You have to be in the industry to even understand how healthcare really works. We've worked for 40 health centers across the country. We've had some concentrations in Chicago, in Michigan, and California, and then a random set of people in the Midwest and on the East Coast. All of these were health centers. We are not a staffing company. We do not put people into these clients. None of our folks have ever been required to spend time there. Some of our Eastern and Western based client service managers have gone and visited. And in fact, 2 of them took a trip to Chicago to meet some of our clients in person. But that's not really a requirement because we're primarily a technology company. I'm not going to go through what this all is, but this is a way to think about us from a technology perspective. These are all modules and components that have various specific programming work. My background is as an electrical engineer. This is something that I look at and I kind of geek out about because it's something that makes sense to me, but to a lot of people, it's just, it just looks like a bunch of pictures with arrows and stuff. We think of it in big chunks. One's called the digital house call, one's called the watchtower. We have a thing called the host system and the journeys and the deep dive. You'll hear comments of words like that that bring some sense to it. And one of the most important things that we introduced in April that will be expanding upon is a competence called bioscan. Bioscan is a new technology that you'll see a bit about and hear about as we roll forward here. The strategy of our company is pretty straightforward. We wanted to, first of all, prove that we could make a difference in some very important clinical area. So we wanted to prove positive clinical outcomes in thousands of patients and figure out how much money that might be worth to the people that have to pay the claims for those people. A positive clinical outcome means that something bad doesn't happen. So basically, if you had a clinical outcome where you might have a heart attack, or you might have a stroke, or you might have to go to the hospital and have surgery, amputations in diabetes, those are bad things that we're trying to avoid through what we would call a positive outcome, which says that your treatment's working for you and you're healthy. We want to show it at scale, which means we want it to be thousands of patients, thousands of doctors, touching many, many insurers, because ultimately, my experience has been that the people who are going to buy our company, going to make the stock that you invest in worth the very most, is going to be a high level payer. And I'm talking about people like Anthem and Elevance. That's kind of the same company now. Folks like United Healthcare or Humana or Aetna. Those are companies that have the kinds of needs because of the fact that they pay for claims. This is a place where if you can change that, it's worth it to them. And a really important point is I've done this twice before. This is exactly how it happens, is that if you can show that you can make a real difference in the progress of disease or a condition in a patient, and you can avoid a negative outcome or delay it to the point where it's not so expensive, they will pay a lot of money for that. Like I said, it's happened twice to me before. I didn't really understand the numbers when I first got into it, but I've now discovered that, and this is the track that this company is following. So why is CareMindr important at all? The answer is because we do very positive work. We create positive outcomes, positive clinical outcomes in hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, pregnancy. Those are areas where we can have an impact. One way we think about this is that these are long duration conditions. They're not over in a week. They're not over in when they give you a shot and now you're done and you should go home and 2 days from now you'll be fine. That's not how it works. In these cases, there's a very specific element to it, and that is keeping the patient doing the things that their doctors would want them to do to be as healthy as possible. In every one of these, the load is mostly on the patient. They go and see their doctor, they're going to come back in 4 months, 6 months, sometime like that. In those intervening weeks, it's on them to make sure they do the right stuff, and that's what CareMindr is about. We showed our spurs we earned our spurs in a program, a national program called the National Hypertension Control Initiative. Hypertension, high blood pressure, is the most prevalent condition in American adults. Half of American adults have hypertension. A big chunk don't know it, but there is a distribution that the Centers for Disease Control has laid out. And it says some people are in stage 1, that's less than a quarter. A larger section is what's called stage, some people are controlled, that was the quarter. Almost half of them are kind of in stage 1, but 45% are in stage 2. Stage 2, if your blood pressure is above 140/90, that's where stage 2 starts and goes. Any number higher than that puts you there. That's a bad place, because that's where the heart attacks and the strokes and the surgeries, that's where it all happens. And again, because high blood pressure doesn't have any symptoms, people don't even know that they're in stage 2 or that they're borderline stage 1. So in 2021, $90 million was given out to a bunch of health centers, and about 10% of them became our clients. And the real challenge was, can you reduce stage 2 hypertension? And so the answer to that is, yeah, you probably can. I'm sorry, there's something popped on my screen. All right, that stage 2, could you reduce it by 50%? Now, they were working in an area where they had data that said stage 2 had been stable. People had, well, that's probably bad. It had been stubborn, stuck at that ratio kind of forever, because the number of people that have it they have a very hard time getting it down. And so if you looked at the population across the health centers we worked with, there's 5 years of data that used to be publicly available that would show that over the 5 years, they've always had kind of the same percentage of 40, 45, 50, 55% people stuck in stage 2. So the question was, can you move it? Can you come up with some way to get that to go down? And could you get it down by half? And the answer is, yeah, we did. So based on a study they had, we had moved up to the end of April, we have moved about 3,400 people out of the red into the green. They'd gotten out of stage 2. They started in stage 2 and now they were moved across. Now, from this study that the American Heart Association published, a 5-year, it's actually a 6-year longitudinal study. It was 1 year of intervention and then 5 years of following on. You can take the statistics in this report. It is publicly available. We'll make it available to anybody that wants to. We have a copy to send. It was published. And basically using that and looking at 3,394 patients, we can state that statistically there were fewer strokes, there were fewer surgeries, the 121 number, there were fewer heart attacks. And the study assigned a value to each one of those types of events, a hospital cost value. The hospital cost that was avoided was over $16 million, because that's what it's worth to keep something from happening. They didn't have a stroke. They didn't have a heart attack. They didn't have to have the surgery. And so that's a savings financially. And the thing that I stick on the most is that their lives were not interrupted by that. Their family life wasn't interrupted. Their work life was not interrupted. These people continued to live. The population we were working with was primarily working age adults, kind of centered between 40 and 65. A lot of people in their late 40s and their 50s, that's kind of where this happened. But those are people that society relies upon. And so this was an opportunity to really be helping them stay as healthy as they could be. And the American Heart Association was so pleased with our results that they asked our chief medical officer, they asked her to come to conferences in Boston and Philadelphia and to present the findings. And they wrote a press release about us. This is not our press release. We weren't doing press release. We've never done a press release, quite honestly. This is their press release. And so you can see it's in the newsroom from the American Heart Association, and it talks about the 50% improvement and talks about the fact that we achieved it in a difficult environment, one where English was not the first language of a number of our patients. But it didn't matter, actually. The fact is, our Spanish-speaking patients outperformed the English-speaking patients. We joked about the fact maybe we should teach the English ones to speak Spanish and they'll get better. But the point is that we did hit 50%, 53% overall, and she reported this. So this recognition is proof that we were able to do something. And the way we're able to do it's pretty simple. The doctor will tell a patient, all right, you have something serious. You have high blood pressure. I need to know how this progresses. We want to make sure that the medications and the things I've asked you to do with diet and maybe exercise or other stuff, we're gonna put an app on your phone. It's called CAREMINDr. And you're gonna get some codes to put in that's gonna make it your little journey, your one journey. Out of all the thousands of people, you have a unique path to walk. And your phone is going to buzz every now and then, and we're going to ask you for some information. It shouldn't take you more than 1 minute to answer it. We're going to ask you for a number or to choose from some multiple choice. You don't have to write sentences. You don't have to type out words, but please answer and send those mini reports back to us, because we will be watching them and we'll be seeing what it says. Now, that simple step right there probably was really important. It probably helped a patient because it prompt guided and enabled them to do something about this condition that the doctor said was so important. And it told them the kinds of things they should do. With every one of these times that they had to send a little report back, there were a few things that were mentioned to them. Not always the same ones, but over the course of a month or two, kind of everything in the program was touched on. So the patient would have it kind of reminded about what they should do, but specifically asking about their meds Were they having side effects? Were they having complications? Were they not sleeping well? Or did food taste funny? Those kinds of questions. But I think one of the most important things is the patient now felt cared about, because they'd get a message that said, this is a message from your doctor. I need some information, click here, and the form would appear. They'd answer it less than a minute, send it back in. Those little yellow arrows. Back at the health center, the doctor and the care team were seeing all this information, and that enabled them to be more aware of what was going on. There's technology in here that enables us to make sure that if anything's going sideways, we pick it up quickly. They could be more responsive, quicker to get to any problems that are showing up, and they could focus on the people that were having trouble. A whole lot of people are doing well once they get into this program. Once the medications are adjusted just right, once they avoid any complications or problems, it rolls along. But if there is reason to talk either to the patient or to the doctor, they could get back to them too. So the end result is a happier patient and a happier doctor, because it looks like the doctor's happy because it seems to be working. The patient's happy because they can see that they're getting healthier. And then we look at that data across all of them, like that 3,400 number I showed you there. But I want you to concentrate on one thing here, or just focus on one thing for a moment. All those little yellow arrows. That's created a whole new area of healthcare. And it is the basis of the patent that we'll be talking about in a minute. All of that data coming in on a regular basis from the patient. We've never had that in healthcare before. This is a new thing that's possible with the technology of today, which brings us to CAREMINDr AI. This is the area we're going to be talking about in terms of expansion here. All right, so what this is started with this. It started with a capability called bioscan, and this is something we showed last time and where I was having trouble getting the sound to work, but I'll just narrate what's happening here. You're going to see a scan take place. So let me open up the screen so you can all see it better. And what you're
demonstration of a remarkable.
Let me take this down because you're not. Well, I just said something. Maybe can you hear this in my mic?
It uses a regular cell phone to perform.
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, go ahead.
Sort of a 1-minute selfie. At CareMinder, this functionality is now being incorporated into our app and will soon be available for use in all of our hypertension care programs. This is Sherry Deeds, Vice President of Client Success at CareMinder. She is measuring her blood pressure and pulse using an FDA-approved arm sleeve monitor, while simultaneously using the cell phone bioscan for comparison. As you can see, the readings are identical for systolic pressure and pulse. The diastolic readings vary by only 1 millimeter of mercury, well within the acceptable range of variance. To learn more, contact CareMinder today.
When people find out that they can measure their blood pressure by taking a selfie, they always say two things. They always say, wow, and then they say, how does it work? And the answer is, it works through AI. It has seen hundreds of thousands of faces and learned what to look for. It uses the sensors of a regular cell phone to be able to see unbelievable things. There's 3 different camera colors that are looking at the screen. There's a thing called ballistocardiography. I always say that wrong, which is basically looking for minute variations in your face. There is a blood flow that can be tracked, again, through things that are happening in every human face that people cannot see, but the camera can. But the big thing to us is that it's simple and it's available to everyone. And it's convenient, and nobody has to go buy something or haul something around. They already have their phone, they're ready to go, and there's no more cost in the system to be able to use this. So what this enables is a very rapid and massive expansion of care management. That capability by itself takes out so many roadblocks to being able to treat the 50% of Americans that have hypertension. And it brings us to the next step, which is this is the patent that we just applied for. All right. Our date on this patent is May 29th. So we're ahead of everyone, we believe. And anyone who comes after May 29th, they're going to have to contend with the fact that we've already started to patent a process we call the double AI system. You see this picture on the right-hand side down at the bottom, and that's really representative of what we're talking about. Now, this is called a provisional application. It's only 14 pages long. The real application is being developed, and it'll go out there. It has to be in before the year is up. It'll be about 40 to 50 pages long. We have other patents, including ones that are released to us. This one is probably going to be one of the most important, and it will also spawn some derivative patents from it. But let's take that picture and I'll give you a sense of what it has. When you use a blood pressure cuff, we have two numbers. We have your high number and your low number, your systolic and diastolic. But when you use a bioscan, you get all of these every time. You're looking at your blood pressure. That's what we showed you in that video. But every one of these is being measured at the same time. So if you think about the data, there's a lot of information coming in, different kinds, different numbers that are there. And if you think about the questions that we ask those too. There's more information about the information on that same day. And if you try to think about that as something that a patient is experiencing over 10 days or 30 days or 90 days, this is an enormous amount of information. Think about 10 things taken every day for 90 days. That'd be 900 pieces of information. Think about 7 or 8 questions that are taken every week over the course of 14 weeks. Now what you're talking about is another 100 or 200 or 150 pieces of information that you mix into the 900, and we tag every single answer of whether it looks like it's an okay answer or one of these higher levels of problem. A human cannot look at this data and quickly draw any conclusion. It would take a lot of studying for every patient, but an automated bot can. It can learn. By having doctors read in what looks like a problem, how they would respond to it, we start teaching this thing about that. We have a relationship right now with a 6,000 member doctor group here in Northern California that are going to perform this function of being the teachers bit by bit of the AI that we're programming. An interesting point is that sometimes one of the first questions that come up is, I need to know more. Well, the bot itself can send a message right back to the person and saying, I need some more information. You say, we can see that you're hurting. We had a real case like this, actually. A question might be, do you know why you're hurting? If you don't know why you're hurting, where are you hurting? Is it your leg? Is it your arm? Is it the middle of is it the chest? Is it your head? Where does it hurt? Because then it can reach a conclusion about, what would I tell you to do? Should you come to the emergency room? Should you wait for a phone call? We will call you within the hour. Give me a phone number to reach you. Should you need to go and get an appointment, have a telehealth visit, talk to a nurse, have a counselor talk to you? Whatever the problem is, we can get a message back to you to deal with that. And we can also tell a doctor, this is what this patient experienced, this is what's been seen, this is what they've been told to do. That is the gist of this patent we have. And I believe this will transform the care of chronic conditions because it will all be automated. It's extremely inexpensive to run. Costs for every patient that we're taking care of, it costs a few dollars a month. And so basically this can help people in those long-term conditions. And we were able to do that, particularly in areas where early awareness of any problem, early action keeps the cost of what comes later, eliminates the bad stuff that could come later. One of our targets is self-insured employers. There's millions and millions, if you look at the list here about how many people there are. If you look at the active participants in the first block there, you're getting down to, 31 million in self-insured plans, 28 million in mixed insured plans. That's 60 million people that we would be able to reach. And we have just signed a relationship, not just, we signed it in April, with an experienced distributor to get out to all these people. Earlier today, we had a discussion about talking to one set of employees within a 2 million person group. So this is the work we're doing. I showed you our strategy. We proved that we could do this. We showed all the way up to the American Heart Association that we could handle something as tough as hypertension, which is probably the hardest of the long duration conditions to deal with. Now underway, we're trying to demonstrate the scale, and we're going to doctors and we're going to self-insured employers. The money we're raising now is to do this, and it's also to be able to build out the product. We're going to try to attract a liquidity partner and be able to take the money you invest, and in the next 2 years, we hope to get 10 to 20 times the money back. Not 10 to 20%, 10 to 20 times. Because I'll remind you, that's been my experience. I have companies that the valuations make no sense under the standard way of thinking. If you understand how valuable it is to avoid a stroke for somebody who has to pay for that stroke, to avoid a heart attack for someone that has to pay for that heart attack, to avoid hospitalization, to avoid amputation if you had to pay for the health care that requires. If you avoid those, what we're doing is amazing. It's like a new kind of drug, but it's based on technology. So to describe the plan pretty simply, it's like this. We use a technique we've used. Our company has raised about $4 million so far. We use a method called a safe note, a simple agreement for future equity. It is $5,000 a unit, two unit minimum. So 10, 15, $20,000 to come in. Your valuation gets locked in now at $20 million. Well, what does that mean? That means if we sold the company for 50 million and you invested 10, that you would get 25,000 back. If we sold it for 150 million and you invested 25, your 25,000 would turn into 187,500. I can show you the math on this. I've been through this many times. This is exactly how it works. And why is the $150 million number there in the center? That's what my last healthcare company over a decade ago sold for. CAREMINDr is worth so much more than this. That company called Resolution Health, which you can read a bit about in LinkedIn, basically it identified people who were being treated and the treatment was faulty. And they were now at higher risk because the treatment wasn't exactly right for the conditions they had. What we're doing at CAREMINDr is we're trying to keep conditions from ever getting that bad. So what we're heading off and the cost for doing it is so much lower using technology and the capabilities of today that gets us here. So it's pretty simple to do. You send us a note that says, I want to do this. This would be the investment name, the legal entity. Give us an email. We'll prepare a safe note and send it back to you. You sign it, send it, wire your money in. There's information about how to do that. Once we get it, we'll send it back. This is how we did the first round back in April, and we're doing it now. And OEO and 10K gets information about all of that. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to add a bonus on it, which says that if you make an investment, we will credit it as 10% higher. So if you put 10,000 in, basically you're going to get $11,000 worth of investment. That's what the note will be, even though it's only 10,000, and it's written out in the note that it was 10,000 in cash plus special consideration. This is the special consideration available to you. So just to sum us up again, we know what we're doing as a management company. It's huge markets that we're in. we have a product that's exciting and the breakthrough is enormous. The technology is in place now. We don't seem to have any head-to-head competition. We're going to expand it. We're going to do client onboarding. We're going to keep pushing the technology ahead, and the Safe Note money is going to be able to help us fund that. So I'm open to questions and discussion now.
Right. Thank you so very much, Harry. Very, very good. Go ahead, guys, and put your questions in the Q&A section. Any questions that you have for Harry. Um, and for those of you who are already investors, if you want to, ask questions about what you've seen here that was new, this is a good opportunity for you as well. So, Harry, I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, congratulations on creating this tech solution that really is going to make an impact in the industry. As you know, we've talked before, I am an HR professional. And so those self-insured plans that you're going to seek out, my organization, manages one of those. And when I first saw your solution, that was the first thing I thought about was, oh my goodness, this would be absolutely perfect. When you think about, and just for the community to help them understand really what Harry was talking about is, for those of us who work for employers who offer benefits, there's something called self-insured plans. Basically, that means the employer is paying for those claims dollar for dollar, right? And using some of the money that you pay for your premium towards those claims. Most of the time, 90% of the time, the money you pay does not cover the claims cost, just to be clear. And so, um, hypertension is a very high claim spend. Typically sits probably in the top 10 of most employers spend on claims. And so this solution is amazing from that standpoint because those employers can contract directly with Harry to make sure you have the monitoring treatments, right? That will essentially help you get healthier, therefore helping the claim spend go down. So employers will be motivated to contract with Harry because they're looking for help on that claim side to help claims go down. You see this with musculoskeletal solutions. You see it with gastrointestinal solutions. You see it with perimenopause and menopausal solutions. You see it with mental health solutions, right? So what he's doing is in line with all of those healthcare tech solutions that really do speak to the whole health of an employee. And it helps the employer keep the spend down. So this is absolutely a wonderful and necessary solution that Harry and his team have built. Um, and so I just want to speak a little bit about the timing of everything again. I want to go over the timing. So the patents started. Um, let's go through a timeline so that people can see kind of, what you've already done, but really look at, kind of what that roadmap looks like going forward.
Sure. Okay, so when we talked in April, we were actually in the middle of putting the bioscan capability, the facial scan thing. We were in the middle of making that live. We have done one round of acceptance testing, which was the deepest part. And now we're at the last step. So next week we should complete the acceptance testing. And when we complete the acceptance testing, it will be sent to the stores, to Apple and to Google, so that it would be available on Android phones and available on iOS phones. So at that point, we've already started contacting some clients that want to use it. We have a school district group that has 35,000 employees. It's a multiple school district group, and they're interested in having it for each of their districts. They have over 30 districts. We're talking to an employer that has or a service organization that sets up clinics inside employers. They have 800 wellness clinics that they run. They serve 2 million people. And so we're excited about working with them too. There are a number of others that we want to spend time with, But in essence, we believe this will grow very quickly. Keep in mind, yeah, that's going to make us all cash positive and it'll make it easier to keep growing and so on. But the most important thing that happens is that big insurers very often are the people who run the programs for the self-insured employers. For
Mhm.
example, I have family relatives, family members who are senior people at one of these school districts, and when I ask them who are they insured by, I know the answer is they're insured by their school district, but their answer to me is United Healthcare. Why?
Right,
Because they have a
right,
card that says United Healthcare.
right.
Because if they have a question or a doc, they want to find a doctor, they got to call United Healthcare. United Healthcare has been hired to run the program that the employer's money is being used to pay the claims. When you get to
Absolutely.
the employer side of it, to the school district side, their whole thing is we have to keep down the claim spend because we've set the money aside. We don't run them on a run out. If we have some left, we'll carry it over to next year and we'll have a little buffer against anything bad that happens. And that's the way it works in those sort of environments. So that's
Mhm.
good for us all, is that basically there is a need. People are asking us now, like this provider group, which actually bills these clinics, they said, well, can't our doctors use your solution like you did in the hypertension program, or use your diabetes solution, or use your depression solution? And the answer is absolutely, because now we're actually going to help the care of the patient. We have others that say, well, we don't actually have that same tight relationship with the doctors. What can we do then? Well, my prior company did an analysis, and then we sent the information back to the patient. We were actually mentioned in a Wall Street Journal article in 2006 about the work we were doing. And the patient would decide which of their doctors they wanted to have a discussion with us about. And so then the patient was empowered to do this. That ability to measure so many different biological factors in a 1 minute selfie enables us that to be on the lookout for things that the patient doesn't even know we're on the lookout for.
Mhm.
They're checking their blood pressure, but maybe they have a fatty liver problem. It will be picked up. They will be told about this and said, you really should think about talking to your doctor about this. They may have the beginning of diabetes, pre-diabetic, or maybe they're in diabetes and they just don't realize it. Those are going to be picked up. And because of that, the patients will be not only focusing on what they were being treated for, they'll have the benefit of having a much broader scan to catch things that could also either show up as a comorbidity or could show up as a problem. This is what I think healthcare is going to happen. Nobody's asking a person, a civilian that's doing their job and has their family and all of that stuff. Nobody's asking you to become a clinical professional. We're just asking, just take your selfie, do that, and know that behind it, there's a lot of analysis that's happening through automated means that have been clinically and rigorously proven. And that basically it's going to tell you if something comes up, give you a report to take to the doctor. You don't really have to do anything more than that. It's just something that checks. The example I give a lot of people that said, if you have a car, it's got a lot of sensors. It looks at your water temperature and your oil temperature, and maybe it checks your brakes and the air in your tires. And it's got this stupid thing that says EGR on it. And nobody knows exactly what those are. But if they light up, what do? You take it to
Right.
somebody
Take it
that can
in.
fix that.
Right,
So
right. Whatever it is, right.
and you don't worry about how complicated your car is because it's designed that it will tell you if there's a thing that doesn't look right. And maybe
Mhm.
it's the sensor or maybe it's something wrong, but you got to go to somebody that knows how to do that and has the tools to do it. We're just moving into that era for the human body now.
Yeah,
And
that's a wonderful analogy.
yeah, and you as an ordinary driver, you feel perfectly competent of knowing that when the red light flashes, that you understand who to take it to. Okay.
Mhm.
And maybe you have some skill sets like I'll check the tire air pressure or whatever. Maybe you don't. So doesn't really matter. It's kind of anybody can handle it if they just understand that these lights are important and you just can't run around driving your car with these red lights on. Same thing with your body. Now, by reporting data, it's those sensors that are going. That's how the sensors get to the brain that figures out if anything's not quite right. And
Mhm.
so that 1 minute selfie every few days, once a week, that's enormously important because you're creating a picture of yourself within data that can be analyzed. And that analysis, it's hard. That's why we have to build a tool to do it. But that's what the patent's about. That analysis will spot stuff and give you your own little dashboard. And if there's a red light or an orange light or whatever,
Very good.
it also can give you, you can get a report at any time. So it can give you, hey, all the data you sent in, nothing's wrong.
Right. Looks fine.
We
Right.
haven't found anything. And
Right.
so good. You might be going back to an annual physical. And
Very
somebody
good.
says, okay, I can bring this in, I'll show them. I've been doing this. I've been collecting my data over the last 6 months, and
Mhm.
here's a report about that. And here you go.
I even think about when you think about life insurance
Yeah,
and the physicals, how a report like that could be handy in that situation, right?
yep,
What if you instead of, used to be, they sent you to, a clinic to have an assessment or whatever, or you had a questionnaire or whatever, what if you could produce your report from CareMinder that says I'm good to go, or here are the stats, and they use that for underwriting purposes. I mean,
yep.
there are a lot of use cases here. Really, there really are,
This
really
is,
are.
and they talk about the use of AI in healthcare, and overwhelmingly, there's over, I think they're up to 1,200, 1,400, well over 1,000 FDA approved uses of AI in healthcare. But 95% of them, it is interpreting massive data fields.
Mhm.
It's like looking at an MRI or an X-ray or a CAT scan or some other kind of very dense picture and finding stuff that human eyes can't see and that nobody has the time to dig into because you're just one patient of so many. They can't invest 5 hours of crawling across your data. So you're hoping that somebody with sharp eyes is seeing it. But now, overwhelmingly, the use of AI has shown up to say, you've taught me what to look for. I'll look for it. When I see it, I'll point it out to you. You
Mhm.
guys decide if there's something to do. And that's where it's being used the most. This is the same thing, only instead of an X-ray machine or a CAT scan or something like that, this is a data picture that you created about yourself by sending in those little reports on a regular basis,
Mhm.
compiling it, and then letting an AI tool see if there's something in there that looks bothersome, having been taught to look for that by doctors who understand what they're doing.
Great. We've got a couple of questions from the community. Sharnetta says, when do you expect to have a buyer based on your previous experience?
Uh, I, every investor I have asked me that question, and the answer is that the buyer will take two steps. They will first do an investment in us that will grant them inside the wall access. They will get to kick the tires on all the software. They will look at the data. They will find out that what we're doing is exactly right. They will also buy themselves a year to 18 months to close the deal at a very, very high price. But they're not going to do that until they've kicked the tires, they've been inside, they've seen it for themselves, and they've looked around to see if there's anything else that they could get instead. So that's exactly what happened the last two times. I expect it to happen this time. I'm hoping that the first step takes place before the end of this year. And at that time, if there's money that comes in that we're not going to use, that's what happened last time, that, we'd probably say, well, all right, you're going to have to put up $20 million. And the sales price is 400 million. All right. Or something like that.
Mhm.
And so we'll have money, we'll be able to offer a small return for the investors that might want to clear out because they have personal needs, some things that is part of why they might want to sell their holdings. but the big one should happen next year, 2026.
Okay, very good. So Sarah, that kind of answered your question. Sarah had a question. She said, you mentioned 2 to 3 year timeline. Are you actively engaged with potential buyers who are monitoring your progress?
Yes, we are. All right, and it's casual right now. They haven't assigned a team to us. They know what we're doing. I'll give you one example. We worked in my previous company. One of our big clients was Blue Shield of California.
Mhm.
Blue Shield has now undergone a change where they've created a conglomerate company. So they have the Blue Shield plan that works for Medicaid. They have the Blue Shield Medicare program. They have Blue Shield for commercial, and they have a section where they do provider work. The guy who's in charge of it all was a fellow that I met 35 years ago, and that we were in uh, I guess you'd call it a research council. Basically, it was C-suite executives that would gather once a month under, we paid money to do this, and we had a moderator who would pick topics that would be discussed by people who would present cases, and we'd talk about them.
Mhm.
And we had a lot of interesting people. One of the guys there was a guy named Paul Markovich, and Paul is now in charge of this, and he's like I said, he's not a close friend, but I congratulated him on LinkedIn, and he said thank you, Harry. And so he knows what we're doing. He's in charge of that kind of entity. There's another guy whose name is Brett Wexler, who was the head of value-based care for Elevance. He knows what we're doing. He's on the mailing list. I'm interested in seeing the people that have been following the blog in LinkedIn. When we fired it up, it was expressly for the purpose of telling our story in an ongoing way, because I have 800 contacts in my LinkedIn list. Many of them are these kinds of people, and I would like them to know that we're doing things and this is happening, and get them starting to look. And we're going to go looking very hard as the fall approaches. The healthcare has a healthcare at the payer level has sort of a cycle. July is a very quiet month. So we've started, and there will be a lot of stuff in the blogs, 2 a week from here on forever, I guess. And with the idea that when they come back in August, we're going to be pushing directly about this. Do you want to talk about this? And if you're not going to talk about this, we're going to be talking to others. So, you may just be missing out. And that's usually the last thing they want to hear.
Very good. Very good. Sarah says anyone who works in or has clients within the healthcare market understands that post-appointment patient monitoring is a huge gap that requires time and resources most healthcare professionals don't have. With that, data is the golden goose. What protections are in place or are being considered to ensure that patient data cannot be used to deny care?
Okay, interestingly enough, um, the information, CareMinder is probably unique in this industry. I'm not sure that anybody else does what we do. We actually don't know any of the people's identities. The methods that we've come up for getting people signed up, they're given, their doctor uses a method um, to enroll them. We know the birth year, we know if it's a man or a woman, we know their initials. That's it. All right. We don't know even though we're on their phone, we don't know their phone number. We don't, there's things we don't know, and we never try to guess. So when we have data, it's not used to anybody except the people that enroll these, because they have the crosswalk table as to back to who this person is. When we send the data, we either send it to the patient if that's the way we want, or if the patient's entered a program and said send it to this doctor, that's the doctor that gets it. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere else. Could it be used in some other way to do this stuff? I don't think so, and here's the reason why. It is patient reported data. I don't know that the patient took took the readings or their answers or whatever, that they were entirely done as well as they could be done. It's just a 1 minute selfie, but if you're going to do hypertension, you're going to do blood pressure, you should sit still for a few minutes. You should have your feet flat on the floor. You should be calm and not be, you're not suffering something like hunger or excessive heat or something. Those are things that I don't know. No one knows. So what this does mostly is it motivates the system to identify things that you should go to some professional setting to find out about. Now, the
Mhm.
patient chooses what setting they go to. So even though this is really important information, the patient should always be in control of their own data. And if this is something that they're using to report for the purpose of an annual physical, it's because they chose to do it, not because we're sending it to anybody. So we're very conscientious of that. I'm not a an industry professional in the sense of being an insurance person or being a doctor. I look at this the same way I've looked at healthcare for myself and for my family, for my kids, for my grandkids. Those are all, that's the thing that drives us all. So,
Okay. So no PHI, and you're not sharing it with anyone other than the patient and the doctor.
if the
Yeah,
doc, if the, but that's a doctor that the patient's chosen.
right.
So,
That the patient's chosen, right? Right. Okay. Sarah also says, are there any plans to white label CareMinder so it can integrate into existing healthcare professional management software platforms like Epic, Athena Health, etc.?
the answer is we do integrate with them today. That if the organization that the patient's chosen that uses one of these systems, then we have integrated to Epic and to Athena and to NextGen and to eClinicalWorks and to a bunch of them that have names that are much smaller. Um, Here's what I would say about it. It's they were never built to do this, and some of them are trying to catch up to that, and it'll probably be Epic that'll be there the most because they have the greatest resources. They
Right.
have a large hospital percentage. They are not really, they're a small player in the well, not a small, they're a same size player in the primary care ambulatory market. The doctors that you go and see, if they have a small office, they're not running Epic unless they're part of a bigger system. Most of them, just cost wise, complexity wise, training wise, they're simpler systems for people that are primary care doctors and aren't running surgery centers and stuff like that. So Epic may build something like this, but they're so hospital centric, they seem to think a certain way. They have problems with the way their system is designed to be able to take in a constant stream of information from every patient. One small example. We worked with Epic and we had an Epic specialist that had gone out and became a consultant. And he explained that the way Epic works is a doctor orders something and then an answer comes back. They order a blood test, they order an MRI, and then they wait and then it comes back. The idea that the doctor would order something that the patient would send in every single day across thousands of patients, they don't know what to do with it. They
Mhm.
don't know where to put it. So what's come out so far is just sort of an archive for all the data we generate. It sort of gets piled up, but they don't have any analytic capabilities on that because it hasn't been developed yet. And so, that's the most powerful group that we know of. The others are kind of like in a hopeless situation where it says, we're not sure what to do with this. And we're going like, well, it's always been saved. It's there. Your doctors, it's your doctors. If you want to see it, you can get it when you need it. If you want to see it summarized, we can do it that way. This is an interesting challenge. No one ever expected that patients would be able to provide useful clinical information, whether they be questions or whether they be biometrics. No one expected this soon. And
Mhm.
so they didn't build the capabilities in to work with it quite yet. So that's why we have a special place in this. And they never thought about it as a management challenge with these new facial scan capabilities where they're like checking everything you can imagine. And it's just gone too fast, and it's going too fast. So I think we have a very solid position for quite a while here, although we will be porting data in if it made sense and if somebody could actually take it in. So
Very good. Thank you for that. So Talisha's been putting in the chat the Google form. If you are interested in hearing more, talking directly to Harry, learning more use cases, if you have any additional questions that you haven't asked here this evening, or if you're watching the replay and you have some questions that you wish you would have been here to ask, if you fill out the Google form, then Harry we'll send that over to Harry. He will set up some time directly to talk to you. If you want to see the due diligence information, we will send that over as well. Um, let's talk again about the timing and the investment amount and the deadline for executing that investment.
okay, the next 2 weeks we're offering the bonus on that. We will extend the time period for the 10K or OEO community um, through the end of the month. Probably we'll come up with something here. Probably through the end of July, if that's okay. It'll still be open, and then we'll call it and whatever happens. So if people have money that's coming back through, through a tax return or something, and that would be the money they want to work with, we'll make sure that you have time to get that. If you make a commitment, we'll credit the commitment based on that, on the time that you make the commitment, and then if we can get the money in a reasonable time, even if it's not quite the deadline, that's fine. We've been flexible on that. Um, if you want to talk to me, there is a scheduler that you can book a half hour, and I'm happy to answer any questions you've got, go face to face with you. If there's things you want to see that maybe we have handy that we can show you, um, some other presentations, some more detail about the patents, more details about, like we have a bunch of documents that explain all of the kinds of sensory things that are possible, all of the other pieces. Be happy to do that for you.
Very good. And as a reminder, we try to say this often, because oftentimes we forget to say it, is if you've got a self-directed IRA, these are the types of investments you can use those funds for. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, let's see another question here. Sarah says, from a legal standpoint, is there any legislation, state or federal, that you're tracking that might impact this platform? We're in a very pro AI wave right now, but we all know how quickly things can change. Are there any other risk you're planning for? Very great question, Sarah.
That is a good question, Sarah. I think that the places where AI is being looked at the hardest is what's called generative AI, which is where it either becomes an agent or it tries to talk directly to someone. And those are areas that we're not in. The kind of AI that does the stuff we do, which is the pattern matching tracking kind of stuff that's being used in healthcare. Like I said, there's over 1,000, 1,200 applications that are doing it just like that. And so I think the confidence in what we're doing is pretty good because of how we've designed it and the safety nets we have it. I had a long talk with the head of our programming team who has been working in AI for Humana and for Optum, and I was very happy to see that he had the same guardrails I have. Our system will never talk to a patient about their condition. We will recommend with them that there are things here that they need to talk to a professional about, whether that's a doctor, a counselor, a wellness coach. There are things that we will say, given your answers, this would be something you need to talk to someone about, or someone's going to call you about these because they've reached a level. But we don't try to be the care person. So I think we're avoiding the traps that people are most concerned about. The other thing I would say is, there's one of the areas that's being pretty mucked up right now is the Medicaid area. because of all the back and forth with Congress and so on. Um, I think it's deeply unfortunate and it's unfair that that's the place where they're looking for savings in any way. But I do believe that the areas we're going into, the employers, that they are a safe harbor in this world. Because interestingly enough, as much as they're concerned about the the cost of claims, which they are concerned about, they're also concerned about the fact that that's a productive employee and that rely on those employees to run their business and to be a producing member of the team that they belong to. So the employers are in this place where they want to keep these people as healthy as possible because they just as soon have these people do the work that they've signed up to do. And so they kind of have a double whammy in that one. They want to see this happen for sure. So that's kind of the big market that we're looking at right now. And so I'm pretty confident that we're not going to run into anything, certainly not in the next couple of years. And you know, I don't know what's going to come in the deep future when people want to like implant chips into you and stuff. But
Right.
that's probably doesn't have any much to do with us. So
Right, right. All right, let me look to see if there are any questions in the Facebook live stream. Okay, I don't see any questions there. And there are
well,
no
thank you
questions
for
either.
staying so late on the East Coast. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about CareMinder. Thank you for your interest. And we're certainly open and happy to talk about what we're doing. I will say to you that when I started off, I had no idea of what the ROI could be for an investor. It was stunning to find out that a company that had like my first healthcare company that had about $2 million in revenue would be acquired for 32 million, or that a company that had $5 million in revenue, my second company, would be acquired for 150 million. But then I began to understand the metrics that we're playing in here. And if
Mm. Did Harry freeze or did I freeze? Okay, Harry did. Thank you, Tracy, because I still wasn't sure. Sarah, the minimum is $5,000. You're welcome. And great question, Sarah. Let's give Harry a moment to come back on. This is definitely one of those where if you have retirement funds that you can pull from for investment purposes, definitely look into that if you're interested. Also, this is the time when you call up the cousins and say, okay, guys, this is one we want to go into together. That could be an opportunity as well. There you go. I wasn't sure if it was you that froze or if it was me, Harry.
I wasn't sure either. Listen, I don't need to keep you guys longer. I think we've said what we have to say. I'm
No,
sorry that
this
we
was
had the interruption here,
wonderful.
but it was okay.
No, this was wonderful. Thank you for going through even how the prior exits have worked. First of all, congratulations on the prior exits, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to have a two-time exit founder working on his third, you are what we talk about when sometimes we ask a founder what the exit plan is. And oftentimes when the founder says, I want to sell, the community doesn't know how to accept that sometimes because we want to see these businesses, right, that are minority owned. We want to see them, be legacy companies and stay in the family for generations and generations. And then we talk about, but wait, guys, when there's an exit, you're right, then there's a return on that investment. And then often the founder goes and they do something else amazing. you're the perfect example of that, to be able to now be working on the third business that
Well,
you are looking to sell.
yeah, well, I think the big thing here is that it's always the challenge. It's always what problem solving. And if I think that there's a problem that's really interesting and really helpful, and it's kind of like you see another thing you can do, and then you work at it until you can figure out how to make that work. And
Yeah.
I'm a techie, and so the technology we live in, with cell phones, with AI, with this scanning thing, with all that stuff, it's an interesting toy box to live in because they seem to throw new toys into it all the time, and we'll see how it grows. But I think this one is a really big step, and I believe that this idea that people can create their own data image about their health is an untapped resource that's going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So,
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. To the community members that came out and joined us live this evening, thank you very much. To everyone who's going to watch the replay, thank you. Do not hesitate if you have any question at all. Please complete that Google form. We will have it in the email replay that we send. Talicia's already put it in the live stream. And obviously, if you want to grab it from here, in the chat, you can grab it here now, but it'll be in all of your replays as well in the email that you receive. Thank you all so very much, and have an amazing evening, rest of your evening, for those of you who have a little time left. And we appreciate you. Have a good night.
good night.
Thank
Good night,
you,
all.
Harry.
Thanks again. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much for the time.